not speaking, but with that, then we're going to call the May 10th regular board meeting to order. Roll call, Jenny, please.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Here.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Present.
Ms. Tremelli?
Here.
Mr. Yekitis?
Present.
Dr. Schulman?
Here.
All right, those able and willing, please rise and join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we have the oath of office for newly elected board members.
Okay, Mark and Tara, if you please stand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Tara Tremelli,
having been elected
having been elected
to the office of school board member,
to the office of school board member,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge
and will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
And this is where you sing that song now.
Thanks.
All right, the next agenda item that we have is the election of officers pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 120.43 Paren 1. Requires that a unified school district annually elect from its membership the following officers: school board president, school board vice president, school board treasurer, and school district clerk. So the procedures for that begin with the position of school board president. So at this time, and each of the board members has a stack of paper ballots in front of you. We are taking nominations from members, nominations for the position of board president. If you would mark that accordingly, and Jenny will come around and collect those, and we'll review the results of the nominations.
So the first ballot here is for nominations, and then we get the two people with the most votes go forward to, you do another ballot then to elect for president.
Okay.
Okay. So I have Frances Bohan. Frances Bohan. Kathy Gorst. Frances Bohan. Frances Bohan. Frances. And Karen Schulman. So we'll have to redo the nomination ballot one more time.
So just to be clear, especially for people in the audience that know, we have to have two clear, we cannot have a tie for second place. So we have to redo the full nomination process so that we have two clearly standout 1 and 2 nominees. So again, what you're filling out right now, board members, is just the nomination for the position of board president.
All right, Frances. 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 Kathy. Frances. and Karen. So we're in the same situation, so cast another nomination ballot for the office of president. Are you set there?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. We have Karen. Karen. Francis. Karen. Karen. Francis. And Francis. So Francis and Karen will be who we were choosing between for the office of president. Okay, for the office of president, Francis, Francis, Karen, Francis, Karen, Francis, and Francis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 to 2, so Francis is our president.
All right, with the official selection of board president, I turn the gavel over to you, Madam President.
Okay, then we will move on to the office of vice president, and we will do a nomination round as done previously for the president.
You set there? Okay, nominations for the office of vice president. Mark Canardi. Mark. Karen. Dale. Karen. Mark. And Mark. So we have Mark and Karen for the office of vice president. Okay, for the office of vice president, Mark. 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 Karen. Mark. Mark. And Mark. So Mark is our vice president.
And we will move on to treasurer, the school district treasurer, and do a nomination.
Are you set, Kathy?
Not yet.
Okay. Nominations for the office of treasurer. Karen. Kathy. Dale. Karen. 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 And Karen, so we'll need to redo the nomination ballot for the office of treasurer. Nominations for the office of treasurer. Kathy. Karen. Dale. Karen. 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 And Karen, so we'll redo the nomination ballot for the office of treasurer. Nominations for the office of treasurer. Karen. Karen. Kathy. Kathy. Karen. Karen. And Karen. So between Karen and Kathy for the office of treasurer. Okay, for the office of treasurer, we have Karen, 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 and Karen. Unanimous vote for Karen as treasurer.
Move on to the office of district clerk.
Nominations for the office of clerk. So nominations for the office of clerk, we have Dale, Dale, Sam, Dale, Dale, Sam, and Kathy. So we do have two top nominees for the office of clerk. We have Dale and we have Sam. So please cast your vote for the office of clerk. Are you ready? The office of clerk, Dale, Dale, Dale. 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 Sam. And Dale. So Dale is our clerk. And that concludes the election of officers.
Thank you, everyone. As we move on to the selection of the school board secretary, you need now be a member of the board, and I am open to taking a nomination for that position.
I nominate Jenny Haig.
Second.
Okay. Do we have a second? Isaiah? Okay. So is there any discussion about that? We will go ahead and take the vote.
Okay, Mr. Conrady,
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorst,
Yes.
Ms. Gorst, I apologize, Ms. Tremelli,
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis.
Yes.
Dr. Schulman.
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan.
Yes.
Go.
Okay. And we will move on to the consent agenda, the approval of minutes from the regular meeting held on April 12th of 2023. What is your desire?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about those minutes? Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Mrs. Steiner,
Yes.
Ms. Gorst,
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli,
Abstain.
Mr. Yekitis,
Yes.
Dr. Schulman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan,
Yes.
Mr. Conrady.
Yes.
And the next item is approval of accounts for the month of April, which you had in your board docket before.
Move to approve.
Second. Thank you. Any questions about the accounts for the month of April?
Who was the second? I apologize.
Kathy.
Kathy?
Okay, then we'll go ahead and take that.
Okay, Ms. Gorst,
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli,
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis,
Yes.
Dr. Schulman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan,
Yes.
Mr. Conrady,
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner.
Yes.
Okay. Any district recognitions tonight?
We do, we have one lined up, and I'm hoping some of the kids are out maybe in the hallway. Ms. Fassler had set up our members of our SMART team who recently traveled to give a presentation. Come on down. And gave a special presentation on their research that they've been working on. So we were, unfortunately, Ms. Fassler was not able to be here as the advisor to introduce the group, but she said they're very good at presenting and they'll do a good job of introducing themselves. And I think we're going to get an overview of their work and presentation that they just did.
So my name is Ruhi Shah, and I will be attending Georgetown University this fall. We are part of SMART teams at Marshfield High School, so students modeling a research topic, and each year we focus on a different protein in the body to study, to research, and then we present it at a science conference. So this year we presented at ASBMB in Seattle, Washington over spring break.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, my name is Will Jepson. I'm a junior this year. I'd first like to thank the Shaw family for their generous donation, which allowed us to pursue this topic and then also funded our trip to Seattle. It was an amazing time. I wasn't able to join us, but the four of us were able to spend 3 days plus an extra panic night when our flight was canceled. That happens. But we met a lot of cool people and we learned a lot, so yeah, it was an awesome opportunity.
Okay, I'm Kat, and I'm currently a sophomore. And I'm really interested in health science, especially when I attend undergraduate school, probably at UW-Madison. I will be pursuing a career interested in medicine. And I think the great thing about this was it really allowed us to talk to undergraduates who are currently doing research, and that was just really cool and interesting to see, given the opportunity to talk to the variety of people that we talk to, and it's really learn about all the things that they research and also how they started, especially in their undergraduate careers.
Hi, I'm Richard Gui, and I will be attending the prestigious School of UW-Madison in the fall. The great thing for me was attending the Fred Hush tour, which is a cancer research facility. We got to meet a great researcher who was a previous MIT attendee. He had great insight into how they model their proteins and how they deal with their research. And they really broke down everything step by step so that we can share it with you guys during our presentation.
Okay.
Not today, sorry.
And I'm Carly Winder. I am also interested in pursuing a career in the health sciences. Through Smart Teams, I was able to learn how to do the protein modeling with JMOL, so taking it from the PDB file and being able to model it 3D. That was a really valuable skill for me to learn. Okay. Thank you.
And we do
And
have
I
an
have some
upcoming
pictures.
presentation. When's our presentation?
Next week.
Next
Thursday
week, Thursday
at 7.
at 7 at.
It's in that.
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
one.
Look in the red folder
You're
on the
looking at
table.
my folder, it's right there.
Oh, we have a flyer.
So is everyone in the audience invited to this?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
public?
Yeah.
Okay, you go ahead and tell me.
So we have a presentation on our research that we did this year on spinal muscular atrophy. And that will be Thursday, May 18th from 7 to 8 at the STEM Center at the Stevens Point at Marshfield campus. Yep, again.
Come and learn about protein.
Anyway,
All right. Well,
and I might add, it's in room 514.
Perfect.
So,
You didn't
Thursday
know
at
that,
7
so
o'clock.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very exciting. Okay, we will move on. Any other district recognitions? Okay. Then we will move on to communications from the public. And the board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision-making. It is not the intent of the public comment portion of the meeting for the board to enter into a debate or discussion on an issue. Comments in regard to personnel matters are not allowed. Information presented cannot result in immediate action due to the open meetings law, but could precipitate a future agenda item. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and Jenny keeps track of those 3 minutes and will generally give a person a 30-second warning, so let you know after 2.5 minutes that you have 30 seconds left. And I'm going to take these in the order they came in. I'll just start at the top with Dylan Schroeder. Dylan, welcome. Thank you.
Ready? Okay. Good evening. My name is Dylan Schroeder, and I'm a senior at Marshfield High School. I'm the president of my class, president of the National Honor Society, and I'm ranked #1 in the class of 2023. At most schools, this would mean that I would be recognized at graduation as a valedictorian. At Marshfield, however, we no longer recognize valedictorian or salutatorian. In fact, we haven't recognized these honors in almost 10 years. When my mother inquired about the reasoning, she was told that, quote, the district does not publicly rank students, unquote. This is partially true, but the top 5% of the graduating class is announced at commencement. In my class, this means the top 13 students. While not identifying each student's individual rank, the top 13 are separated from the rest of the class and recognized. My question is, if the top 13 can be recognized, why can't 1 and 2? I've worked incredibly hard for the last 6 years through middle and high school to become valedictorian. I'm disheartened that despite this hard work, I will not be recognized at the graduation ceremony. It is further disheartening when the school has signing days to celebrate athletes going from colleges ranging from D1 to 2-year junior colleges. If athletes get this special recognition, how can it be fair that the valedictorian and salutatorian don't get the same recognition at graduation? At the end of the day, titles do matter. When someone goes to medical school, puts in an immense amount of work, you refer to them as doctor. When someone is elected to lead a group of people, you call them president. I've worked very hard for many years to earn the title of valedictorian. All I'm asking is for this hard work and the hard work of valedictorians and salutatorians to come to be recognized at commencement. Thank you.
And next I have Nicole Johnson. Thank you, Nicole.
Hello, as a parent of 4 kids, 3 currently in district schools, and as a volunteer, I am beyond saddened that the referendum didn't pass. I'm in my kids' schools a lot. I'm friends with teachers and staff that don't feel appreciated by this community. I see the conditions of these buildings and I appreciate everything staff does to keep themselves and our children safe. I wish the people of the city were more concerned about the future of our schools and kids and the kids that use them than they are about trying to badmouth the people in this room that are working to improve it. I also hope there are plans in place to help these schools hobble through to make needed improvements on these hardworking, aging buildings until a different referendum can be passed. I personally was really looking forward to things like secure entrances to Grant and the high school, maybe someday. I'm also bothered by the rise in legislation around the country that is trying to block our children from an expansive and inclusive ability to learn about themselves and others. I hope and pray that Marshfield can continue to offer a plethora of educational and social options to our students. I read that using ratings from Niche, Marshfield High School was listed as number 25 for public high schools in the state of Wisconsin. This ranking was not just based on academics and grades, but also cultural diversity, health and safety, clubs and activities, among other things. As you continue to make decisions for our district, I hope you put the students first. Please remember that the students of today are the policymakers, parents, and leaders of tomorrow. Let's continue to equip them with the knowledge and ability to get along, choose kindness, and be better humans than every generation before. Don't let your decisions hold back our kids. Choose love, choose kindness, and keep all kids at the forefront of your decisions.
Thank you. Thank you. Christy, Vince.
It's kind of worked out well. So, all right. Okay. My name is Christy Renz. I am here to say that with 2 Moms for Liberty candidates on the school board, I hope the school continues to strive for inclusion of all students. To me, every child, whether they're Black, brown, white, Indigenous, or immigrant, LGBTQ+ or not, deserves the freedom to learn and to thrive in our schools. Every child deserves the best education and made to feel they belong in our schools. Marshfield School District needs to keep supporting and building policies that lead to honest, accurate, and inclusive education. This can take many forms. It can be from having a wide range of books children can read, to the Marshfield High School GSA Club. Academically, it can be more money and aid for tech programs, to making sure STEM-based clubs, like we just learned about, have all the backing they need to continue long into the future. I've had 2 children go through Marshfield schools and 1 who is a sophomore. All 3 were and are academically focused. 1 was a National Merit Scholar. 1 took 23 AP classes over 4 years. And the last one, who you just saw, does AP classes, varsity sports, and academic clubs. All 3 were and are in the top 5% of their class, and 1 even graduated second in their class. With all this, I am so grateful that the high school works to build an environment of collaboration and unity. We recognize the top 5% of the class in AP scholars. It also recognized those who excelled in theater, the arts, sports, and technology. I think one of the administration and school board's primary responsibilities is to ensure the safety and well-being of all students in Marshfield Public Schools, not just a select few. I hope you see any effort against a particular group of students as one that means to divide our community, to censor our students' lives, to control what parents can choose, and to exploit hatred and fear. Last night, 5 students from Marshfield High School, one was only 14 years old, spoke at the City Council about the importance of Pride Month and Pride events. This is exactly what we need to do to build on. We need to show we are a community and a school system that strives for acceptance, love, and inclusion for all people. Thank you.
And Kathleen Mahoney.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm Kathy Mahoney, Marshfield Teachers Associate member and middle school English teacher. And I would love to have the energy to speak about the positive things going on in our school district every month. There are many victories to celebrate. And this month I so happen to have a little, and that's why I'm here. I want to celebrate our English language learners and all of their teachers. In 14 years, this is the most EL support I've had as a teacher, and it's amazing for all of our students. English language learners have all the same varieties as the general student population. Some are special ed, some are at risk, some advanced, but they have the additional hurdle of trying to learn at varying degrees English, and academic English at that. Keep in mind, we all take English through senior year of high school because mastering quality communication takes a lot of time and practice. And I bet, as educated as this board is, if I gave you a grammar quiz, you get some of the questions wrong, because English is one of the hardest languages to learn. So, quite frankly, simply just translating for English language learners it's not enough to teach them. They need help with advocacy, organizational skills. They need to get quick feedback, be able to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And so having dedicated 712 and K6 EL staff to support that advocacy has been huge this year. Not only do they advocate for those students, but they help those students be integrated into the classroom, so everybody gets to see and learn from that diversity, those struggles, more empathy going on in our classrooms. It's amazing, the questions I get now that they're more integrated. And the EL teachers help us as regular classroom teachers differentiate more, which in turn helps all of our students. We think of new ways to teach because we're addressing new needs and new methods. So it just feels good to know, and I know I don't have like data here to show you the growth, right? But I know that my EL students have grown more this year because of all the support that we've had. And I just wanted to celebrate the staff and the students that went into that.
I just want to make sure before we close out this section of the agenda, did I miss anyone? I have 4 here. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We will move on then to the announcements.
Yeah, and on the correspondence, again, this did circulate through, circulate through the board, but I just want to repeat to make sure it wasn't missed with our kids that were up here before from the SMART team. The correspondence that the board had was the announcement. The students are going to be presenting their protein research. What they were referring to is next week, Thursday, May 18th from 7 to 8 p.m. and that's going to be held at the Everett Rail STEAM Center on the UW Stevens Point Wood County campus in room 514. So I just wanted to repeat that again to make sure everybody got that from the kids that presented before. With that then, on the announcements, I want to take the opportunity to announce Teacher Appreciation Week. We are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week here in the school district in Marshfield during the week of May 8th through the 12th. And we encourage everyone in the community to join us in this opportunity to recognize and express our gratitude for the hard work, dedication, and achievements of our outstanding educators in the school district. Teaching is a challenging and demanding profession, requiring patience, dedication, and a deep commitment to students' growth and well-being. Teachers serve all students, no matter their background, socioeconomic status, or ability, helping children from all walks of life to achieve their potential. Our staff show up every day with enthusiasm and passion for helping our students succeed. While teachers may not always receive the attention or appreciation they deserve, they make our schools places of hope and joy, and they make our community and our world a better place. They are actively preparing the leaders, innovators, and thinkers of tomorrow for the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. So with that, I encourage everyone to please join us in celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week by taking a moment to thank a teacher who has made a positive impact in your life or the life of your child. Write a heartfelt note, send an email, make a positive post on social media expressing your gratitude. Our hope is to make sure that our teachers here in the school district of Marshfield know just how valued and appreciated they really are for all that they do for us here in the community. So with that, I guess I would ask if we could give a round of applause for our teachers.
I just want to say on behalf of the board that we do appreciate our teachers so greatly. They not only bring a joy of learning, but if you listen to stories from anyone about their favorite teacher or who influenced their life, it often has to do with having been noticed by a teacher, having been told they were capable, having been told they could do it, noticing a talent in them, those sorts of things. These are the things our teachers do every day. Besides teaching content, they teach to individual students because these students come in with different needs, with different interests, with different abilities. And I just want to thank our teachers so much on behalf of the whole board for caring about each of these students. Thank you.
Francis, for the superintendent's report, I have just a few items that I want to make sure, because we're entering that time of year, it's hard to believe we're nearing the end of the school year, but we've got a number of programs that are coming up, so I would just like to announce a few of what those are, including obviously graduation ceremonies coming right around the corner. But next week, I want to be sure to note that for everyone out there that MHS Scholarship Awards Program for our seniors will be held in the high school auditorium next week, Wednesday, May 17th, beginning at 7 p.m. And then as far as graduation ceremonies, we have the alternative school graduation ceremony. That will be held on Wednesday, May 24th, starts at 12:30 p.m. and it's held at the YMCA campus. I believe we board members have invitations sitting at the table in front of you. So board members are obviously encouraged to attend, but that is a public event as well. So we're looking forward to that ceremony for the alternative school on the 24th of May. And then the MHS graduation ceremony for the class of 2023, that is scheduled to be held on Saturday. This is a Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, May 27th, beginning at 11 a.m. I'm going to say Marshfield High School campus, because our hope is that it's going to be in Titan Stadium, weather permitting. If the weather outlook is not good, then we will be looking to shift that inside to the field house, but we're going to cross our fingers on weather helping us out on holding it outdoors in the stadium. Thank you.
A day like today would be perfect. Okay. Then we will move on to the acceptance of gifts. And we are blessed with a number of them tonight. $500 for travel to the World Robotics Championship from Alyssa Waltz Flanagan. $50 for the girls basketball program from Zelda and Mark Yoder. $900.24 for bus upgrades for girls hockey from the Point Rapids Girls Hockey Boosters. And then two things for Madison Elementary, $2,500 for first through third grade library program from the Weber Charitable Foundation. Items for the school store valued at $500 from Janet Karoffi. And then at Lincoln Elementary, we also have two things, $2,500 for first through third grade library program from the Weber Charitable Foundation, and snacks valued at $160 from Maxwell Mason. At Grant Elementary, $1,000 for the kindergarten team from Kendra Hazley. What is your desire regarding these gifts? We'll move to approve with great thanks. Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we will go ahead and take the roll on that motion to approve.
Okay, Ms. Tramelli,
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Forst?
Yes. Okay, we will move on to committee reports, and my understanding is that policy and legislation did not meet this, and facilities, safety, and transportation did not meet. So we will move on to finance, which I know had a long meeting.
I'll try to be brief. We did have a long meeting. The items that we covered quickly are the review of the, we have one action item, but I'll address that at the end. We reviewed the monthly bills. We finished up presentations of certain department budgets. We heard the human resources proposed budget for 2023-2024. Also the budget for food services. And I don't know if anybody remembers from last meeting, we have joined a co-op of different school districts that are using their group power to improve pricing for our food supplies. The new distributor that we're using, I had asked for an estimation of what the cost savings are going to be for joining the co-op, and it looks like it's easily 20 to 30% cost savings across the board on food. There's also there's a great increase in the types of food and food choices that we can go from. So the decreased cost is going to give a little more flexibility in providing more variety for the kids. So that seems like a win-win. There are some replacement cost estimates for items that are probably going to need to be upgraded in the next 3 to 5 years. And those were just not part of the budget per se, but just as an update and a warning, what we might be looking at. We reviewed snow removal expenses, and it was tied closely to the maintenance department budget adjustments that were made for this current school year, 2022-2023. Snow removal, we hit a bunch of really bad events. Not optimal events, let's put it that way. One of the people we had contracted with for snow removal was no longer doing it. We had to piecemeal together different groups. Often they were not able to clear the sidewalks and the entryways. It would just be driveways. So there was some brainstorming around. We went over budget by about $225,000 this year due to that, plus long winters, plus lots of ice storms and the cost of salt and everything. So we're looking to become a little more self-sufficient. There are new vendors lined up for all the schools. The sidewalks are going to become a locally managed issue with our own staff. We're going to be swapping some of that, the extra that we paid for snow removal. There's going to be some equipment purchased, so then that savings will be realized year after year after year after. It's kind of a wash that the equipment's costing what we paid the extra for the sidewalks last year. So the budget there was adjusted a little bit to reflect the difference in vendors as well as the increased cost of supplies. So then we reviewed ESSER budget financing, and between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds, it looks like we're heading into 2023-24 with over $2 million of available funds, which needs to be spent by September 2024, and we intend to spend every last dollar, I think is how it was stated. It's been very well structured, that a lot of the items that we're using ESSER funding for, big ticket items are an initial or only outlay. They're not recurring items, and any recurring items that are being paid out of ESSER funds right now, we will have enough because of the one-time payments, basically that we took out. How do you explain that? How do we have no ongoing reliance on ESSER funding going forward. Once we've spent all our dollars in 2024, the usual budget is in line to be able to continue paying the wages, the benefits, the projects that we already have underway. So we've not been spending money and then suddenly going to fall off a funding cliff. It's all been balanced so that when the ESSER funds are done, we are going to still be in decent position going forward. Which is a funny thing to say right before I say, when we also looked at the preliminary, or not even the preliminary budget, we discussed the 2023-2024 budget, which is being built. We're going into it with a projected deficit of $1.25 million. We've had to adjust what we thought were going to be per pupil revenues, but other items in the budget have been adjusted to balance the budget to account for that deficit going in. The preliminary budget is going to be reviewed next month by us. It needs to be approved by July 1st. Very preliminary, with lots of options for adjustment through the summer as we understand what the revenues from the state are going to be. We'll get that information through the summer. We underwent a membership audit every 4 years or randomly. Separate third-party group has to go through our balance to check our rolling 3-year membership numbers. Out of 3,700 pupils over 3 years, we were off by 4 by their count compared to our count, with lots of opportunities for being able to miss people, say families moving out of the district and forget to tell us, so they're still included on the rolls, just things like that. Open enrollment mistakes or miscommunications can happen both directions. So I think having a 0.1% overage was not a terrible outcome. It's pretty good. We reviewed the variance report. The biggest variance, again, was related to snow removal. Otherwise, we're pretty much on track for spending the money that we had budgeted on time throughout the school year. Okay, so that was the fun, regular new business. Old business, we had to review the issue of athletic training services, which, for anybody who may not have heard, unfortunately, there was a relatively sudden announcement that the Marshfield Clinic was not going to be providing athletic training services to the school district as of the end of June.
At no cost.
Sorry, at no cost. At the end of June. The previously enjoyed, very beneficial relationship is going to come to an end. And there have been meetings, and they have presented an offer for contracting with them for the athletic training services. We reviewed this at committee. We wanted to bring it to the full board. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to look at the contract. It would allow us, we believe, to maintain the same athletic trainer that has been working with us for the past several years. There is a possibility or an opportunity to save some money on their initial cost in deference to us advertising for Marshfield Clinic, Health System, Sports Medicine, in the form of banners, programs, and announcements during sporting events. And I'm not sure we're absolutely bringing this for approval, but do I have to move to approval to get everybody to talk about it?
If your committee decided to bring it forward, then your motion would be on behalf of committee and does not need a second, if that's what the committee agreed to.
So I think we will bring this forward on behalf of committee. That was decided for your evaluation and assessment.
And if I may, I'd like to add just a little bit more background. I think it might be good, especially for people who are attending the meeting, to know a little bit about this situation. So high schools for years, and I could not tell you an exact date. If I had to guess, I would say this probably started back in the 90s or the 2000s. But high schools in Wisconsin have benefited in that medical facilities have come forward and provided athletic training services at no costs to schools. I think the beginning of this, it started very on a limited basis. You might have them just coming, attending the actual athletic events to help out with if there's an injury during a football game or something of that nature. That evolved over time to where there's a strong presence, especially in larger high schools like we have here at Marshfield High School. And it's varied on who those groups are. Obviously, the biggest players here are places like Marshfield Clinic Health System or Spirus. And what we're facing, we're not alone. I think it's important to note that as well. Before I get into that too much more, I'll note as a comparison, and I think Nathan Delaney's still here, so Nathan helped me with this just as a comparison. Our athletic conferences, I recall from your review of this, Marshfield, Wisconsin Rapids, and Merrill have all been receiving these training services from Marshfield Clinic Health System. And all three of us got the same notice that this was no longer going to be provided at no cost. We have our other schools in our athletic conference. I believe the Wausau schools use Bone and Joint, I think they work with. And I believe DC Everest and Stevens Point works with Aspirus. So it is only the schools, and again, we're not alone because I talked with superintendents in the area, and this includes small districts surrounding us as well. Every district that works with Marshfield Clinic Health System received this notice that that service was no longer going to be provided at no cost, that we would have to start paying this standard rate. We would essentially have to pay for the cost of the athletic trainers to continue that service. And the trainer that we work with is around a lot. She has been in attendance on a regular basis every school day, is regularly at all of our events, so there's a lot of time put into it. So in the case of the contract proposal, we did meet with representatives. Nathan Delaney and I met. We originally received this, Nathan, early March, something like that, it seems like, the notice from them. Our meeting was during spring break week. I remember that. It was like, I think it was the last Thursday at the end of March. And we heard back about a week and a half ago that the price proposal they were not willing to modify. There is, as board members see from the contract that you can view in board docs, there is an advertisement bonus that's being offered to reduce the cost a little bit. They did increase that discount. The discounted price was increased from $10,000 to $20,000. So Nathan has been putting a lot of time into reaching out to these other providers to see, as have other school districts that are in the situation, to see, will the Spiders pick us up? Will Bone and Joint pick us up? Things of that nature. There really hasn't been a lot of interest in taking that on. So the administration feels it's important to have an athletic trainer, given the value and the safety and assistance that person provides our student athletes. And again, this is not just athletic events. Nathan, she's typically at the high school, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and is there through practice hours into the evening, and is there for all of our events. When we have multiple events going on, let's say it's a wrestling match at the high school in the field house and a hockey game at the hockey rink, I believe the clinic has provided an additional trainer so that we have 2 people, one at each site and location, especially for high impact sports like that, which are a little bit more prone to injuries happening. Because keep in mind that they help out if a visiting team doesn't bring a trainer with them, they're helping out in addressing the health, safety, welfare of kids from both teams that are participating when there's events. So I think just adding that additional background, I would say, Karen, to summarize from the committee meeting, we understand that we're in a unique budget situation where we're already trying to find cuts to deal with the deficit, and this would add to that. The cost came down a little bit, not as much as we'd like to see, but I have heard from other superintendents in the area that I've talked to that they are not getting any budging on trying to negotiate either. There was some conversation about some specific language pieces in the contract that at a minimum we would want to get addressed and taken care of. But there also needs to be a conversation from the full board about a willingness to start paying for this cost at the price point that is being offered. I mean, I think we can get the contract language details ironed out. I think we're looking for direction on an interest and willingness to take on this expense that we haven't had before. The last piece I might note, Nathan, as I recall, there was some, at points in time in recent history, they had indicated perhaps a need to charge a nominal fee. That was under consideration at a point in time, but that never materialized and that never happened. It stated, or was it a small fee for a year or two and then it went away again?
A small fee for a short time, then it was nothing, and then it went back to a small fee for a very short time.
Okay. Your recollection of what the small fee was, 1,000? Because
The highest it ever got was $3,500.
okay, 32,500.
I think Ascension is also offering services to some schools over in the Point area.
We're not aware of any other providers moving in this direction right now. So, you know, the providers that I mentioned that other schools are using, like Aspirus and Bone and Joint, for example, are not experiencing a change right now.
Oh.
The other thing is, we haven't seen any interest really from anybody else to move into this. And for us to do the sports and not have an athletic director out there, person that can work with them students in training, I think we do a complete injustice, and if somebody gets hurt,
It's just too risky.
this is not, it's too tricky today.
And we've had this relationship with the Marshall Clinic providing services for like 29 years, I think. I think the other thing that we wanted to talk about as the board was how everybody feels about taking the discount and in return for the additional advertising.
So I have a procedural question. So the initial motion from committee was to approve the contract, but what I'm kind of hearing is that maybe there are several questions here. One, an initial question of whether to take the discount. I'm sorry. And two, if we approve it, whether it's approval pending ironing out some of the language about keeping the price point. Am I hearing this correctly?
Yeah, I think we would be able to approve it contingent upon I think the language part is probably adjustable.
Yeah.
We don't think that will be a problem. And I don't know, do we have to decide today on, I mean, because the contract has that in the offer, that the 20% discount, or the $20,000 discount. Does that mean we have to decide on that tonight if we approve the contract? Or that can be a discussion down the road for how to,
Which specific part?
whether to do the discount in exchange for the advertising? Like, would that have to be removed from the contract if?
I was under the understanding when we was in committee that we would approve it with the discount. And
That's how it's being
kind of what I
brought.
thought was what was on the floor right
Yeah,
now.
that's how it's been brought.
But
Yeah.
then the language, am I correct, Karen, that you're suggesting that we want to possibly consider making some adjustments to this branding language, all the advertisements? Is that the language that you're concerned about, or no?
That
what's
more
that?
to do with confidentiality.
Okay, the confidential, okay.
And as far as the $20,000 savings, it comes down to them paying for the banners and putting them up in the field house, and I believe in the ball diamonds and stuff like that. For $20,000, I think it's worth it for us to save that rather than bring it out of the budget.
Have we even looked at hiring our own trainer?
We have had conversations about that. I think that is something we have concerns about launching into immediately. Our thought process would be that that's something that we review during this year under this new arrangement to have more time to be prepared and have that. And I'll tell you that One of the bigger concerns is needing to have a relationship with a supervising medical professional. That's what, working with the clinic, we have available right now. I mean, we have a medical advisor that the district works with, but not in this capacity. For athletic training services, we would need to look at expanding the nature of that work with our medical advisor to be able to take on a role of this on top of what is already done. And it's a minimal amount of advisement that we get out of our medical advisor right now.
And the banners are to be provided by MCHS Marketing, so that would be at their cost.
And with what we're paying, I don't think we can hire a trainer.
Could be.
It's, that boils down to benefit package and whatever the wage would be. With a full benefit package, we would be challenged to get under the figure we're talking about here, yes.
And we also wouldn't have somebody else contracting with a backup to cover
Correct.
additional,
And we
when
would
we
still
have
have
two
to get
games.
auxiliary staff for double coverage, yes.
Nathan, I think our training services also included, where are you, bud?
Middle back row middle.
Okay. The trainer, from my recollection, also works like, when the basketball team is out there, or one of the teams is out there, or gymnastics are out there. This trainer also puts in some time in a, I guess you'd call it a trainer's room, helping students recover from a previous injury. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Yeah, they would, and that's an important factor here. The person has a knee injury, or they have a sprain or MCL or something like that. It's one thing to have a trainer on duty when it actually happens. And that's, I'll tell you what, that is a scary moment for coaches, because that was through history of coaching for many years where we didn't have any of that kind of service, and we had the hope that there was a student on the field that maybe had a doctor that was a mother or father in the stands that would come down and help us. And fortunately, there were many times, but that was a brutal situation to deal with. So this is a necessary thing for our kids. I think they've also at times provided a training or mentorship for some students, a handful of students or so who want to go into athletic training, so they work with them. So this training situation is all encompassing. It's not just a person that shows up at a game and goes out on the field when somebody gets hurt. There's all kinds of things involved, and I, for one, yes, we're going to have to pay more money. No, we can't afford to hire a trainer because we do have a budget deficit we're going to have to look at. Who knows, somewhere down the line, we may have to look at not replacing certain staff, so we certainly can't look at hiring a trainer, even though it's I think it's a good idea if we could do it. So I, for one, am in favor of doing this, along with the $20,000 discount for advertising. That includes banners. It includes, there would be announcements at various sporting events that says that trainers or the athletic help is being provided by, what is the
MCHS Marketing?
MCHS. No, not MCHS Marketing, but MC.
What are you asking?
Health Services. Anyway, there would be various announcements that would take place indicating that training is being supplied by the Marshfield Clinic and staff and so on. So that's what's all involved here. And I, for one, am in favor of moving forward with this because, gosh almighty, I wouldn't want to be a coach again and be out there in a situation where we don't have professional staff that could come out and help us in some of these tough situations that take place. So that's my take.
Any other comments, Kathy?
I have a concern not approving moving forward with the contract until we've ironed out all of the language, because there are a lot of ambiguities in here. They are the ones that are saying they're going to collect the health information and we're not going to have access to it. But a lot of this is occurring on our grounds. We should have documentation in our files of any of the health conditions that they treat, and we should have access to that in the student records. They are indicating that they will tell us what equipment and supplies that we should provide. There's nothing here that limits what they can ask for. That's a real concern if we're talking about budgeting here. And I understand the safety concern, but we also have to look at whether or not we're stepping into, we think we're stepping into the shallow end of the pool and we're ending up in the deep end of the pool. Also, one of the things that they talk about here is their consent form. They've not attached the proposed consent form to this. They're asking us to keep this completely, that we can't publish this or we can't talk about it in the public. I think that's a big red flag because we have an open records to law requirement. So there are things that I think we should make sure are worked out in this before we say, yeah, go ahead with it with this discount. Okay, so I would like to see it tabled for further consideration to the next meeting and have our attorney look at this and get some clarification on some of these issues before we step into the deep end of the pool.
I have no problem with that. Ryan, I don't know what other timelines might be affected if we table this.
Well, point of procedure, so we have a motion to table, and I need a second to discuss that. I'm sorry.
You have the meeting motion on the floor. so-
But we have the motion from committee, and so I think.
No, we don't have any other motion.
Uh-huh.
We don't have anything
It's
else.
forward on behalf of the committee.
Yeah, that's the only thing we got.
Right, so she just said she wanted, okay.
Do we have to vote on the first motion?
Kathy, was that a motion to table the?
It was a motion to table it until the next meeting so that we can get a complete review by our attorney and get some of these open-ended questions answered.
And so my only was that procedurally, I need a second before we could discuss table.
I don't think a motion to table needs a second.
If it's not coming from the committee, then.
Parliamentary.
We'll vote it down and then
Yeah,
that was tabled
I
to
think
the next one.
if we have a motion to.
Or amend the motion.
And yeah, it would be to amend it, yeah.
We have a motion on the floor
Does it require?
presented by committee to, I guess the wording would be is to go ahead and accept this at this point, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, now, so that's by committee, there's no need for a second on that.
Yeah,
But-
we did, second.
Right.
Right, but there would be a vote, and I guess keeping in mind, maybe when we vote, that there is another potential motion that could follow regarding tabling this. So I think technically that's where we are.
If we go to vote and there's no votes, then it
Then-
just falls the way we said, then it can come back next time.
Can we still have discussion? Because
Well-
the other part of this is that it may, and I don't know that everybody's aware of.
So I just looked it up, and we do need a second on motion to table. Then we can discuss the motion to table.
But we've got the other
We have a
motion
motion
first.
on the floor.
The new motion takes precedent, if it's seconded.
Oh, okay.
So it, only if it's seconded.
And then we can talk about that.
So do we have a second for Kathy's motion?
Yes, I second that.
Did you? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can discuss whether or not to table it and whether there are timelines that we would have to be worried about if that were the case. So now we can discuss.
So I guess a few thoughts that I'll share on that piece of it, if it is tabled, we do, if this drags out too long, we do run the risk of them just pulling back the offer altogether.
So how quickly can we have a review by our attorney and how quickly can we get some answers to some of the questions on these open-ended things?
Well, I think we can get a response back from legal counsel in pretty short order. What I'm indicating is the clinic may say they're withdrawing the agreement offer if we don't have this. I don't know that, I'm just saying, the question was what might happen if we wait.
I think there will be fewer guarantees, or it becomes less and less likely that the athletic trainer may or may not be the same person as well.
And if we move forward with it now, it will go to see the attorney, get read. If there's any changes, then they'll be working on making the changes. to
That's
the
not what the
contract.
motion is, though.
No, it's
The
not.
motion is to approve it.
Right, but we can,
We know we can't.
Well,
no, we can't.
You could amend
she
it.
could make a motion to approve with the idea that they want to iron out some of the language, but that the price fix would be there, was kind of what I heard there. So we can clarify that. That's the way the committee talked about doing it.
Can I ask, do all the athletes sign consents already for athletic training every year? That was another piece of this. Yes, so they consent to treatment and everything, so that's not a new piece.
They sign our consent form, they don't, I think they don't sign a consent form for the clinic.
Well, that's what, does Nathan know?
Yeah. There's truth to what Kathy is saying. We do not sign necessarily consent with the clinic themselves.
Because they now want consent forms with students, athletes, parent, or guardian, which makes sense. If they're sending a provider, there needs to be some consent
To protect
for services.
But we need to know what the consent form is that they're wanting, because they're saying they're gonna provide a consent form and we're gonna make sure it gets signed, or they're not gonna provide services to that student. And if that consent form is one that is not appropriate, then what are we subjecting our students and parents to? I think we need to iron out some of these details before we say, yeah, let's jump in. I really do. This could end up costing us 2 or 3 times what we think it's gonna cost.
Where would the extra costs be coming from to that extent?
Materials and equipment that they want us to do.
It says reasonable.
You know, it says reasonable.
Reasonably necessary.
But what are they gonna consider reasonably necessary versus what we consider reasonably necessary? It's not defined.
Probably whatever the athletic trainer already has been using.
I think we're providing supplies right now, are we not? Yes, correct, Nathan, yeah.
There's no limitation on what they can ask for.
There's a limitation in what we have on budget though.
Yes.
And we have to work, and they understand that. And don't
They may understand that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will follow through. If somebody, if their administrative staff changes, if the people in charge change, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna follow through with something that's reasonable. And I'm concerned about making sure that we pin down what our costs are gonna be, number one. Number two, keep our kids safe. Yes, that is important, but, at what expense?
I'm not, it stretches my imagination to think that anybody is really going to be paying that much attention to what the athletic trainer is doing here to try to gouge the school, so to speak, by pushing us to have. I mean, I think that if the athletic trainer is going to be the same person, whatever we've come to expect from her as far as what she needs should be about the same going forward.
Nathan, what is
I
your...
just have to take that on faith.
And Nathan, what has your experience been in the past? The athletic trainer that we hope to have again has been with us for how long?
I would say 5 years.
And in those 5 years, have you noted any unusual requests for supplies?
No,
or
we don't have unusual requests for supplies, and as a matter of fact, we work with the clinic very well. If we need new tables, new cabinets for storage, some of that's come from their renovations. But we don't have anything extensive in our training room like we would see in a college level training.
Okay.
Wouldn't all the requests for the supplies that would be needed come from Paige anyway?
They would
Or come from
they
the AT,
come-
they don't come from the clinic?
Correct.
or admin or anything.
But that's not what the contract says. No, I mean, the contract, once you sign it, the contract's enforceable.
But it says, all the equipment and supplies as are reasonably
I would
necessary
like
for
Kathy
the
to
LA
show,
to provide
to tell us the language she's concerned about. Could you tell what page it is, the line, the number, so we can, yeah, I'd like to read specifically.
Page 2,
Okay.
3.2.
Okay.
Page 2, 3.4. Page 3, 3.8.
So the school will obtain and maintain consent forms from the student athlete's parents. So those are consent forms that we generate. Am I correct, Nathan?
In coordination with
Yes.
us and the system, apparently, we're
Okay.
going to do.
So
School
that's
will
something that we have
collaborate with the
control over.
system.
I mean, we have control over the consent form.
School will
look at it,
collaborate
we-
with the system to ensure consent forms contain required language.
So we will
They have
collaborate.
required language.
I'm sure they do.
And the school will collaborate with the system. So that isn't indicating to me that the system is going to shove the language down our consent form throat. That doesn't appear to be the case. And for 3.2, the school will provide all equipment and supplies as are reasonably necessary for the trainer to provide the services under this agreement. And so we already know the services that are under this agreement, so we have some assurance that they're not going to be asking us to purchase, an X-ray machine, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Correct.
That the services that they're providing do not in any way portend the purchase of large, expensive equipment that a trainer would request. Am I correct, Nathan? Have you had large requests for large, technical equipment, like an X-ray machine or an ultrasound or any of that? They're not doing that kind of work.
They are not doing that work, nor do we
Yeah.
have the space for it.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
it doesn't state that in the contract. The contract states, correct me if I'm wrong, we're purchasing within reason.
Within reason.
Well, as Kathy said, I don't know what's within reason to them compared to us. So, yeah, is it a concern? It is a concern.
And you have to remember, we don't have a contract with them right now. These were not contracted services, these were volunteered services, okay? Volunteering is not enforceable, contracts are. And we haven't even had our attorney review the thing. So this, come on.
Sure, yeah, so we can have the attorney review it, yeah.
Can I just ask a question? Are there timelines that, I'm assuming this is for next year?
This is effective July 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Section 7, the confidentiality thing, that is a real big thing because we are a public entity. We have an obligation to the public and we have an obligation to be, if the public wants to see this, they can see it. It's a public record. Okay?
So, let me pause here for just a moment. We've got a lot of ideas that are being thrown into the pot here. I think many of them are very good. There's some concern about some uncertainties. The motion was, if it supersedes the earlier one that we had, the motion was to table this. And we got a second. And we've had some discussion, but I think it's time to call a vote.
So we have a call for.
Call for the vote on
the table.
Tabling this for now, and then, of course, that would involve addressing some of the issues that Kathy has and maybe other board members might have. So that's where we are at the moment. I've got another thought after that, after the vote.
No.
So there's not a second phone call for the vote. So we will go ahead and vote on the motion to table. So could you please call the roll on that motion?
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
No.
Mrs. Bohan?
Abstain.
Mr. Conrady?
No.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gorst?
Yes.
Mrs. Tramelli?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to table passed. And the only difficulty is we don't have a date.
You didn't
So I
have-
guess it would be.
It's a tie vote, you abstained.
No.
No, there was four yeses.
Can I ask
Well-
one more question? How was it that the ATs were providing services without a contract before, just maybe an unpaid contract? Weren't we under contract with, there was no contract? that we signed?
Nothing current or active. Do you recall anything in the past? No.
No. Long
No.
yes.
But, you know, more recently, because Marshfield Clinic Health System is a part of our mental health consortium, and about a year ago, we did go through a contract development procedure for that, which was a bit of a task, but we got there. So I'm confident that we can iron out whatever the concerns are on the contract language piece. I believe I heard beyond that, as far as the costing part goes and the advertisement offer, I guess I'm looking for direction on, do you want me to work on changes in the figures that are in there? I mean, we've already asked them to adjust the cost. The only thing we got already from that effort was increase in the advertisement piece.
We couldn't get decent athletic training coverage for less. I think is the bottom line. So.
I don't think we want to address that part, the overall cost or even the advertising at this point. I think, I don't know if we can direct administration to take a look at some of the concerns that board members have about the current, what do I want to call it, Kathy, document, I guess that's in front of us right now.
The proposed contract.
The proposed contract, and see if there are some things there that can be discussed with the clinic. Obviously, you're also going to talk to our legal counsel and see what opinion that we get there. So I think that's where we are. I think that's where we are at this point.
And once we have that legal opinion and if we've had a chance to see if we can get some firmer language on some of this stuff, I think we should be able to call a special board meeting to approve this.
And the only other question would be if it needed to be decided before the June meeting, then you might have to.
We might just do it at the June meeting.
Or we can just do it at the June meeting if it's not. But if it looks like it's going the wrong direction.
A lot of this is going to be determined by what kind of responses we get from our attorney. Knowing how she's replied to things in the past, I think Sheena does a good job and is pretty much on the spot responding to comments or requests that you have. I have never had to deal with the Marshfield Clinic legal system, so I don't know. I guess we also have to hope that they can come forward and let them understand that the approval of this may be dependent upon them addressing some of the issues. So that's it as far as I'm concerned. I'm done with the issue. I just think maybe as board members, if we look at the contract and we see a copy of it and we have some concerns with something, maybe we could pass those on to administration at this point to have them work with both our attorney and with the clinic. And at that point, we'll get some of these concerns taken care of. And otherwise, we can kind of go on and on about this all night, and I think we need to get somewhere.
That's it for financing. This time, I will pass the gavel to Mr. Conrad.
Curriculum and instruction.
Curriculum and Instruction Committee did meet April 26th, and our first item was old business, the second reading of the kindergarten through 12th grade math curriculum, and that is included in your digital packet for approval tonight. So on behalf of the committee, I would ask the board to approve the kindergarten through 12th grade math curriculum.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the K-12 math curriculum. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Jenny, will you take the roll?
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
And the other item we discussed was the 2023-2024 volunteer professional development offerings. So we have mandatory continuing education offerings that our staff do, but we also have a system of voluntary offerings. And we looked at an array of courses that are suggested and have pretty much been put in place. So there could still be some minor adjustments, but it was a wonderful assortment of things from the different schools and across different subject areas and content areas. And also how it is delivered in meeting the needs of students, how the content is delivered in meeting the needs of students and recognizing those different needs. So anyway, I'm just giving you an update on that, and that was it. That's all we discussed.
Thanks, Francis.
Thank you. Okay. Now we will move on to employee relations, Mr. Yekitis.
We have two handbooks for second reading action items tonight. My computer died on me, and I don't remember which one is first.
Support staff.
What one, support staff?
Support staff.
Okay, so on behalf of our committee, I would like to put forth the approval of the support staff handbook. We had discussed that in our committee meeting in employee relations. There were some, basically it was more or less grammar, structure, repetitive sentences. There wasn't anything that I can remember whatsoever, Nicole, that was any kind of a major change in that or the other item. It was mostly just cleaning it up a little bit in both cases. Okay, so once again, I put forward on behalf of our committee to approve the support staff handbook.
Okay, so we have a motion on behalf of the committee to approve that support staff handbook for the 2023 to 2024 school year.
Call the question.
Yes. Any, yes, I said,
Yeah, call the question.
Let's vote.
oh, okay, let's vote. And we will go ahead and take the vote. I thought you were saying you had.
I thought you said my question.
Here we go.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
And our other one is the substitute staff handbook. Yes, we've done some of the administrative and some of the teacher staff in the past. So now we're on to the substitute staff handbook, moving that forward also out of our committee for approval as an action item tonight, out of the committee.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the substitute staff handbook.
Call the question.
School year. We will go ahead and take the roll.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
That's it, more or less, for us.
You have one more.
First reading.
That's just first.
It's a first reading.
Right. Okay, so just to report out, there is a copy of the 2023-2024 Coaching Advisor Handbook for first reading. And if anyone has any comments to share with the committee, you can get a hold of Mr. Euclides.
Or to Nicole.
Correct.
She'll do all the highlighting things in red and doing all the keyboarding. I'm certainly not going to.
Then we will move on to new business. So we have, I don't think we have any retirements.
Oop.
But we do.
No, we don't.
But we do have some resignations. So, Mr.
Okay, this will need a second, since I'm replying, I'm putting this forward as an individual board member to approve the resignations of Rachel Crozier, school psychologist at the middle and elementary schools, Renee Golden, school counselor at the high school, Emily Scheidegger, teacher of orchestra, middle and elementary, and Ashley Van Driel, a teacher of art, 1/4 FTE, or 4/10 FTE, elementary.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the 4 resignations listed. Any discussion or questions? And we will go ahead and take that.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
And then we will move on to approval of employment of new personnel.
Okay, again, to do this technically correct, I'm coming forward as an individual board member to approve the employment of the following new personnel, and my motion will need a second when I'm done. Okay, approval of employment of Madison Armbruster, teacher 4th grade at Grant, replacing Kelly Harder. Amanda Bach, school psychologist at Lincoln in the middle school, replacing Rachel Crozier. Sarah Carl, teacher of Spanish at the high school, replacing Bridget Eberl. Andrew Radloff, a teacher, grade 6 at Lincoln, replacing Paul Downs. And finally, Ashley Will, teacher, 2nd grade at Grant School, replacing Brant Eistad.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor now to approve the employment of the 5 personnel listed. Any questions or comments? We'll go ahead and take the vote.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Okay, we will move on to appointing a representative from the Marshfield School
We have
District.
open.
Oh, I'm sorry. The open enrollment applications, we will go ahead and address those. And those are also in your packet. There were 2 attachments. And so if the question is.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Okay. And do we have a second?
Sure, second.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the open enrollment as listed. Any questions about those? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Okay. And then next is appointing a representative to the 2023 CSA 5 annual convention, which is tomorrow evening. And maybe the way to start is anyone interested in representing us tomorrow?
Keeping in mind, you can attend virtually. You don't have to drive Portage.
I think Dale has been.
They're always available.
I know, maybe I see his hand.
Yeah, great.
Maybe you should send our new board member.
I have other obligations tomorrow. Sorry.
I
Otherwise,
nominate
I
Kathy Gorst.
I have another obligation tomorrow. My grandson has a concert and I'm gonna go to that.
I've got to watch the Brewers.
I've already done it twice.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I've already done it twice.
Oh, do you?
No.
Is
I'd like someone else to have the benefit of experiencing a CSA 5 meeting.
What is it? Sorry, what is it?
Okay,
So you can explain it to me later. It's fine. I really do have an obligation, otherwise I would just do it, so.
I'll do it so we can go home sometime.
Okay, we have a nomination for Mr. Nikitis to represent us tomorrow night at the CISA convention.
Second the nomination.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you go in person, there's meal, but you can attend.
I'm not going, I'll attend virtually.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Have that on the computer, I'll have the brewers over.
So the next item is approval of travel to Madison for the state FFA convention for the students involved in that opportunity. And it is in June, and I believe it was 3 nights. And it does not interfere with the school time, so hopefully everyone had a chance to review that.
Move
What
to
is your
approve.
desire?
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Kathy, was it you?
Yeah. Okay, any questions? Then we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes,
And the next one is
move to approve.
approval of travel to Madison for the State Finance and Investment Challenge Bowl, which is, I believe, next week.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions? We'll take the vote.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Okay, the last one on the travel is approval of travel to Eagle River for the AP Environmental Science Trees for Tomorrow at their facility there. And this is an opportunity for the students that are enrolled in that AP Environmental Science class.
Come on, Mark.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, take the vote.
Mr. Conrady?
Yes.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
Yes.
Ms. Tremelli?
Yes.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound flippant to the audience on some of these approvals, but these are great organizations and groups that we've had that have attended these things in the past. Our students get a lot out of it, and
they represent us well.
And they represent us well. And we move on to nationals at times and so on and so on, so.
Okay, now we will review the plans and proceedings for the Marshfield High School graduation. And I put this on the agenda at the request of 2 board members. And so this is a topic that just came up yesterday. So unfortunately, it's the typical procedure would be to send it through committee, which we can still choose to do, and then it would go through committee and through a first and second reading because it would involve changes in the course catalog, which is published. This is from the course catalog, page 7, is we had one person address the issue tonight during the public comment section. So it has to do with the fact that our course catalog says that as of the spring of 2010, we will no longer publicly rank students. We still do a class rank on transcripts. We still recognize publicly the top 5%, the top 10% at graduation, the top 5% vocally, and with where they're going to school next year. And I was on the board when we discussed all this, and there were some academic reasons. I am showing some hesitation here, only because we truly didn't have time to prepare for that kind of discussion again, like we did did back at that time. And this has been tradition for a number of years, and no one's brought it up. And everybody has seemed content with it until this year. And it obviously would have helped if we could address it in the manner that we normally would, which is through committee and a full discussion of all the academic reasons. And
I make a motion to recognize valedictorian and salutatorian at the graduation ceremonies this year and refer it to, I believe, the Curriculum Instruction Committee?
No.
Or the Policy Committee?
Policy.
For further review and study.
So you are making a motion, and that would need a second.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. I'm actually going to make a motion to refer it to committee, only because I remember the lengthy discussion 13 years ago about all the implications of why we made that decision. And I don't know that, I think that there should be some research and presentation of all of those considerations that were academic at that time, academic considerations. So that's a motion made by me that it would need
I would second that.
So now that is open to discussion. So we have a motion to table them and refer.
Did yours die for lack of second?
No.
No, I seconded.
Well, you did second.
Yeah, we
So-
had a motion and a second, and then a motion to table. So
And apparently, as previously, there are motions to table. Supersede the original motion?
Yes.
I'd like to say I'm not opposed to the idea of, because it is absolutely true that we acknowledge all other realms of success and achievement within the system, particularly sports, even, extracurriculars. Not that we don't acknowledge the academics, but we have always been known as a particularly strong academic institution. It's been a major draw for a lot of people to be coming to Marshfield, has been in the past.
So
I'm just saying, I don't disagree with the request.
the first motion is the motion to table. And I also am very open to the discussion. I just remember how lengthy it was, what all the considerations were 10 years ago, and this was just brought up. So that's why I made the motion I did. And
we are not a body to make snap decisions, that is true.
that is, exactly. It came up, in other words, 2 months ago, absolutely we should be having this discussion according to the normal procedure. And so that's why I made this motion. It's also codified, and it's also been tradition for some years now, and everybody's been satisfied with it. So to decide to change that, I think we have to have the full consideration of looking at the history and why did this come about, and what were the considerations that drove it, and et cetera, before we.
We haven't had an ability to.
And there's no way to prepare that for tonight.
I wish it would have come about 2 months ago also, but after hearing the young man coming up and speaking tonight, I like the first motion that we had from Kathy about allowing them to speak this year, bringing it back. Let's take a look at the policy, see what they got, because we are right. We honor the sports players, everybody else.
Yep.
I don't see an issue this year with honoring the valedictorian and salutatorian. And bringing it back, okay, now let's see why. Because if it was a thing of where they would be putting on the gloves and trying to bring the other one down so the other one could get ahead, okay, then that's a problem. And we need to look at that and maybe we need to say, okay, we need to stay with it after this year again. But I don't really have an issue this year because I think it's just a good thing right now.
I have concern about us as a board without input from administration, from teachers, from other students other than one, in making this decision. That's not the way we operate. We don't make a decision based upon simply what we want. We really don't do that. We take in information, we study it, we make sure that this is not a decision made by the board without consideration of the rest of the district that is impacted by this. I feel very uncomfortable with us making what I consider a snap decision, and we are not in the business of doing that.
And to Mark's point, I don't know that there are a lot of drawbacks of doing it for this year.
Right.
But we have not discussed what all those drawbacks could be
Right.
downstream.
Right, and I don't think it's appropriate for as far as I can tell, 3 people to be wanting to make that decision for the whole district for this year. I don't think that's right.
What are we allowed to do?
My thought on that is, Dylan, I understand that you're an outstanding student, and from what I hear, a great guy. Your father is one of my favorites in the school district. Sky Scheuer has done so much for us here. My concern was, realistically, if you go back and look at your presentation, a lot of it had to do with sort of a me and an I type of approach. Now, if it had been, let's say, the president of the student council, or if it had been another group of students, or someone else that had come forward as opposed to just one individual trying to make a change because of personal concern, Dylan, I can't go along with that. I just, based upon the situation, certainly you are, you're going to move forward and as a academic scholar, and there's scholarships and stuff involved. But I would agree right now with tabling it based upon the presentation as well as possibly getting input. I know someone talked to former secretary at high school today and went and looked back at programs from previous graduation ceremonies. And she said that it's much longer than 10 years.
It's 30 years.
I don't know if it's 30 or if it's 20, but it's been a long time since.
I graduated in 03 and we had a valedictorian in 03.
You have a speaker now, Dylan, has been selected by, you get selected by your fellow students to speak, is that how that goes? No?
You're selected by the board, this year it included an English teacher, a student services member, and the vice principal.
Okay, I've forgotten how that goes. It's been a while for me.
So back to the issue of tabling. My only other thought on why I did that, because first of all, I agreed with him, you are a wonderful student, and I acknowledge that here and now, and we're so proud of you. And we also recognize those, top 2 students that get the state scholarship at the awards banquet. My other thought is this isn't about one student. It is about the fact that if we make a decision for one student this year, and then it goes through committee, and the decision is to keep the practice that was put into the course catalog, then how do you justify saying, okay, we did it for this student, but now we're not doing it for the ones next year? It almost ties our hands if you refer it back to committee, because that doesn't seem fair either, that you make an exception for one student, and then the next year you don't do it on an ongoing basis for future students. So that was my concern in doing it with haste. And, I had someone call me who felt I should spend the time on this, that I have pictures of my new grandchild that was born yesterday, and I work. you know, and I was working and had all these other things, so to drop everything and prepare all that to do it quickly was a concern to me. If it then went back to committee and we went back to what we were doing, then how do I justify doing that? So that's why I made the motion. It isn't about you in particular, because I'm proud of you and everything you've accomplished. So it's about the whole student population.
I was around when the decision was changed, the process was changed. I'm not going to go into details and some of the reasons for that now, but I would be glad to stay afterwards and discuss from my memory as best what happened there. And let's just say the whole situation kind of stemmed out of a super competitive, almost ugly environment that arose from some of those situations that took place. And I'm going to leave it at that, but if anybody, Dylan or others, Scott, anybody else in the community would like to stop by, I can share with you some of my remembrances as to why that was changed.
Anything else on the motion to table? Okay, then we will vote on that motion.
Mrs. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Gorst?
No.
Ms. Tramelli?
No.
Mr. Yekitis?
Yes.
Dr. Schulman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bohan?
Yes.
Mr. Conrady?
No.
I do, based on the interest in looking at this, believe that we can put it on a future agenda to look into it and see what we can do to change that.
Should it go to policy first?
Go
So-
to,
Why
well,
would
it came
we see
through,
no-
it came through curriculum and
Yeah,
instruction.
it's the course, yeah, because we don't review that, I mean.
So it might also go to policy, but it's not, it's in the course.
The course, it's the course description.
So which committee are you recommending?
I'm sorry, what?
Which committee? Future agenda items?
Which would be more appropriate, both? Both?
Perhaps start with CNI, and if that group has an interest in referring to the policy, that could be fleshed out during CNI discussion.
Is that an executive session discussion? Or is that too many people?
I think you were specific about tabling it to committee.
Yes. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.